So it has been almost a month now since I first started playing Black Desert Online, and as a fairly new player, I just wanted to share some of my insights on whether it is worth starting this game in 2023. First, let's start out with some of my criticisms about the game, so you know what to expect when you first start playing as well, and then we will move on to what I do really like about this game to end it off on a positive note. I have to admit, as a new player, this game certainly felt very overwhelming at first, and oftentimes I didn't really know what I was doing. It really rushes you into things with so many different items given to you, events, and notices popping up all over my screen that I didn't even know where to begin. However, once you start running through the main questline a bit, you slowly but surely gain a hold of the basics. However, some of the more complex features, you'll definitely need to watch some videos or at least do some reading online in order to figure out how to use these systems. Primarily, the node system and the housing system took a bit of getting used to. So this brings me on to my next point. Because right away, the game is firing so many items at you that inventory management at the beginning was a major headache. Although during the main storyline you do get quite a bit of inventory slots as you progress, you can tell that they are really trying to push the paid inventory microtransactions upon you from right at the beginning. While it certainly is possible to progress in the game without buying any inventory slots, I mean I still haven't, I will admit it begins to get a little frustrating after you have to run back to the town after every couple quests. Especially because it won't let you start some new quests unless you have an inventory spot free, and a lot of the inventory items that you are given from the beginning are character bound items that at first I honestly had no idea what they did or how to use them or how to get rid of them. And also at this time I had no understanding of how the node system or the trade system within the game worked, so I was just constantly running back to town every 20 minutes or so to sell all of my junk items and put anything that I could into my storage. But even the storage space itself is very limited at the beginning, with each town having I believe only 16 slots of storage, and trust me, it fills up quick. So now onto my final point of one of the things that I found interesting about this game as a new player. As somebody that has played a lot of other MMO games and even action RPG games, I was quite surprised at this game's lack of immersion. Now, I don't believe that a game necessarily has to feel real in order for it to be fun. However, I definitely felt like some of the features implemented in Black Desert Online really kind of are detrimental to the immersion of the game. So one of the main things is that almost every quest you do, you have to talk to many NPCs over and over, and every time you start a conversation, it opens up a whole complete cutscene to talk to the person. Personally, I think that removes a lot of the immersive aspects of an MMO when it kind of switches screens every single time you have to talk to something. And what makes this even worse is it's not just NPCs. For example, let's say you're doing a quest and you come across a chest. You have to open up a dialogue box with the chest in order to unlock it. I don't get why you can't just walk up to the chest, press R, and then the chest just opens if you have the proper key to open it. Instead, it literally opens up a new screen and it asks you multiple different dialogue prompts. Another aspect is the armor. You can't see it. You get a new piece of armor and you swap it out with another piece of armor, and it doesn't make any changes to the look of your character. Now, somebody that has played a lot of Guild Wars and World of Warcraft, I'm super used to getting that new piece of armor and equipping it and, kind of being able to show it off. Instead, in Black Desert Online, all of the cosmetic gear is just that, it's cosmetic. So it's completely separate from the actual armor pieces that you acquire in-game by completing quests. And you guessed it, most of these cosmetic armor sets are microtransactions and they cost you real money. So I've played for about 16, 17 hours now, and I have gotten one new piece of cosmetic armor. So essentially, my character still looks the same as it did at the very beginning of the game when I was level 1. And to me, that is just, it gives me a headache when I think about it. I find it feels very unrewarding to get a new piece of gear and not being able to see that gear when you, to be honest, the only way I was able to make it past this mentally was to just completely ignore it and forget about it and try as hard as I could to not really think about it. Now let's move on to some of the many positives that this game does have to offer. I don't just want to share all the doom and gloom, because this game has definitely been growing on me once you get past some of these initial barriers. The first major thing I have to commend BDO on is the combat. Holy crap, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it is super fun. If I could try to compare the combat to any other MMOs, it becomes a bit difficult. I would actually say the combat in BDO feels a bit more like an action RPG, almost like Path of Exile or Diablo or something, where you are just slaying through hordes of monsters at a time rather than attacking just one mob at a time, pressing 1, 2, and 3 over and over. The combat is super engaging, really fast paced, and I often find myself zoning out completely and just fighting mobs for hours at a time. So that kind of brings me to my next point, which is the pace of the game. As you're playing BDO and ripping through quests, it definitely feels fast and you feel engaged. You're always moving on from one thing to the other. While of course it is grindy at times like any MMO or action RPG game would be, the rate at which you can just hammer through quests, destroy hordes of monsters, and then go back to town, collect your rewards, change all your items, and then go hammer through more quests is really fun and fast-paced. While I don't want to compare games just for the sake of comparison, one thing that you could keep in mind is maybe the difference between this and questing in like World of Warcraft. In my opinion, World of Warcraft just feels slow in comparison to Black Desert Online. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's very little times where you actually feel bored in this game. There's always something going on, you're always moving on to the next thing. And while sometimes the quest lines can feel repetitive, the rate at which you move through them is satisfying. Now, my last favorite part about this game, this might sound a bit basic, but I really enjoyed the graphics and the scenery in this game. Again, as somebody that has played a lot of World of Warcraft, the graphics in BDO are definitely refreshing for an MMO of this scale. I often find myself just staring out into the world. The landscapes are amazingly beautiful, and the cities are just massive. The armor sets look amazing, even though most of them are blocked behind microtransactions. The models of all the bosses are super impressive. Every time I go to fight a boss, I'm like, holy crap, this guy is huge. And while just playing through the game, you can totally tell how much time was really spent modeling this world. So now I want to wrap this up and talk about some of my final closing thoughts. And I want to answer this one looming question that I'm sure you all have. Is it worth it playing this game? So first thing I can say is I got this game in the fall Steam sale, and I believe I paid a total of $1.20 for it. So in that case, I would definitely say it's worth it. For a game that only cost me $1, I have gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it already, and I'm sure I have hundreds of hours more in this game to come. Even buying this game at the regular cost, I would still say that it is worth it. However, I do find it a bit strange that you pay for the initial game and then how much they still try to push the microtransactions onto you. So if you can hold out for a Steam sale, I would definitely advise you to do that. However, if you really cannot wait to start playing, I would still say that the original price is worth it. I suppose overall, my first few hours of BDO, I was really unsure of what I got myself into. I was unsure if this game would be right for me based on some of the games that I had previously enjoyed. I felt very overwhelmed and confused, and I'll be honest, I almost gave up on the game right away. I was about half an hour or an hour into it, and just the feeling of being lost and not really immersed in the world almost made me leave it right away. But I'm glad I didn't, because I would say once you get to about level 20 or 30, which only takes a couple hours to get to, things really start to pick up. You start to get used to some of the aspects of the game, and you definitely start to find yourself getting lost in the world. I'm definitely excited for more of what this game has to come. Personally, I still need to hit some of the endgame content myself to experience how that all truly works and how that all feels. Once I spend some more hours in this game, exploring some of that endgame content, I will likely do another video. So definitely subscribe and stay tuned for that, and leave a comment on what some of your thoughts on Black Desert Online are in 2023. Thank you so much for watching.